Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another Wednesday night live stream. I am Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by fellow Lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, and joined by Jerry Hamilton, my man, the man, the myth, the legend, Jerry Hamilton. Of course, we'll take all of your questions, throw them out there. Super chats can interrupt the show at any time. They jump to the front of the line. We got some recruiting and stuff that we'll get into. We'll also get into, I got a question for the panel just to kind of start things off. We'll also dive into some of the other topics of the day. My man CJ wants to get into a little baseball, so we got some insider nuggets about baseball that we can drop in on you. But also you can hit us up, of course, all of your questions or comments. They always would be the main topic of the show. Gentlemen, first of all, early 4th. I don't know if we'll all get together. So happy 4th of July to everybody out there in Longhorn Nation as well. It's kind of one of the holiday editions of the live streams. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Man, everything's great, man. I'm down here in Florida. Brought my kid down so he can hang out with some of his buddies in Jupiter, where I used to live. So just hanging out in Florida for a few days, getting some work done. I'm going to go see a couple of prospects on the way back to Texas coming up here early next week. But it's great, man. It's blue water. I'm never complaining about that.
CJ revealed something that I don't think I've ever heard, but I respect and appreciate. He did say that earlier today that July 4th is his favorite holiday out there. His favorite holiday, July 4th. So you know what? Easily, he said it's not even close.
Not even. The whole thing is you get out by a big body of water. Jerry, you're out in Florida. I just arrived in Gun Barrel City. I'm at the lake this week.
Oh yeah.
You got to get outside, enjoy the sun, grill up some burgers and some dogs, get some fireworks. It's a whole day affair. And
don't blow your hand off.
I'm not Jason.
It won't be your favorite holiday anymore.
But I love this holiday. It won't be the same, obviously, Rod. For folks that will watch the winning drive tomorrow, we talked about it a little bit with the hot dog contests. This year, no Joey Chestnut, American hero, not participating.
That's unbelievable.
It is, but good thing it's all Badlands Booker. Moving forward, he's going to come away with the crown this year.
I'm boycotting. I'm going Texas A&M fans. I'm boycotting. I'm not watching.
Listen to this dude naming random. Now I don't know if it's random, but naming other like competitive eaters.
Eater
X, than like the household name.
That proves that July 4th is his favorite holiday. By the way,
love it.
It's amazing. I've never heard anybody say that or admit to it, but I do respect it. It means you're a patriot, brother. So hey.
Here's the question, though.
I love that.
With a beer and a hot dog on your stomach tomorrow night?
Well, I'll have several, I'm sure.
You wake up with a hot dog bun like over here or something.
I might have the case somewhere on my head if that's that's my favorite part of the celebration. Come on, get outside, see the sun, get beat down by the sun, and then have a cold one later that night with a couple dogs.
I'm telling you. CJ, she's just a wild man. So y'all keep up with CJ on social media. No telling what he's going to be into for the 4th of July weekend. But I hope everybody's got really good plans for the 4th of July weekend. But I know folks want to talk some recruiting on the show. So we'll do that. This is actually a conversation, guys, that is being had now in several different circles in Longhorn Nation. And Noop Ed, let's get to it because I've heard now from a lot of different Longhorn fans, and when they're asking me about stuff like this, then I know it's become kind of a largely discussed topic among Longhorn fans, a heavily discussed topic, I should say. D-tackle recruiting. Are we panicking yet? It seems it comes up, from the chat, super chats. It comes up every show, every live stream. If there is one, I think, big area of concern that Longhorn fans have, short-term and long-term with the program, it's D-tackle. It's D-tackle, the recruiting, the position itself this season after Sweat and Murphy left, the Bo Davis and then Kenny Baker transition. It seems like Longhorn fans don't have a lot of stress these days. Longhorn football fans don't have a lot of stress.
First world problems, Rod. First world problems.
Yes, but is it a first world problem, Jerry? Or are we talking about a third world problem? Where are we? First, second, third world? Where are we? The D-tackle conversation.
I think it's probably threefold. I think first is Texas goes 12-2 last year, makes it to the national semifinals, right? And the expectation is now you recruit like Georgia or Ohio State. But Texas is still a little bit a ways away from that, in my estimation. 2, if Texas wasn't moving to the SEC, would it be as big of a deal? It's a lot because the defensive line, and I think it's a big deal. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying with the fan base, would it be as big of a deal right now? Maybe. But that move to the SEC is that magnifies it, because if you look at Alabama and you look at Georgia, look at Florida when they were really good. There's something to be said. Look at Clemson when they were really good, who essentially is an SEC team playing in the ACC. That was quarterback, defensive front with Clemson and enough speed on the outside. Alabama and Georgia dominant at times on the defensive front. Georgia's not as good as they used to be, by the way. They still have 3rd, 4th, 5th round draft picks. They don't have 3 first-rounders right now. But I think I think the Bo Davis going to LSU, right? I mean, there was so much that was gone with it. I think the Dominic Williams portal recruitment this summer really because he goes to Oklahoma, turns down Texas, turns down the LSU. So I think you put them all together. And I'm not panicked. I am concerned, but I'm not panicked. I think we're going to see Texas cast a wider net. I think if there's one thing for me with this class is, it's easy to say that, okay, well, there's only 2 guys that maybe in Texas that Texas really went after that had the frames Texas was looking for, and that's the larger human frames. But Landon Rink, Chase Sims now are committed to A&M. Dylan Battle looks like he'll go to LSU. So there's 3 guys in the state that are going to A&M and LSU that Texas didn't push for. So if those guys end up being really good, then that's going to come back and be a different conversation, right? But Texas is looking for a type. Bobby Burton, CJ, we talked about it earlier. Texas is looking for a type on the defensive line. The question is Texas going to bring in more guys and cast a wider net? Because Chase Sims is not small by any means. He's 6'2.5", 300 pounds. Okay, he's not small. Is Texas going to cast a wider net in 26 with Kenny Baker with his feet on the ground? I do expect that to be the case. It's going to be hard to come back and flip like a kid that's committed to A&M or LSU. It's not going to happen. Now, a Derry Norris, who I really like, who committed to Georgia Tech over Miami. We'll see what happens out of Spruce Creek. But the funny thing about D-line recruiting, guys, Sark's going to, I call it, well, obviously recruit through the whistle. Some fans are like, I hate you saying that. But both those D tackles that committed elsewhere, they're still talking to colleges. How many days after they committed? 4? Process hasn't stopped yet. It's ongoing.
Hey, Jerry, we got some breaking news here. 5-star wide receiver, according to Hayes Fawcett here, Dakorien Moore will announce his commitment tomorrow. So, how about that? We were expecting a drop maybe, early.
We knew it wasn't going to August. We've been saying that.
First week of August, last week of July, maybe pushing that early into the, kind of week of that last week of July. Well, now we have a decision coming tomorrow. A little 4th of July fireworks there for Dakorien Moore. Of course, right now, Jerry, and I'll let you, get a hold of this one as well. Texas feels good. Oregon's made a big move as well. Oregon has made moves basically the last 2 weeks across all positions, across all, kind of levels of prospect right now. I do believe right now that moving forward, you will see that decision tomorrow come down between Texas and Oregon.
Yeah.
So, Jerry, what do you got there? Because I think this is a bit of a surprise to just about everybody.
Well, I texted with somebody earlier close to that recruitment while we were actually filming a State of the Program, and we've been saying it was going to be July, not August. This is a different recruitment. Dakorien's different than Colin Simmons as far as taking this thing the distance right into August. But I think it is Texas or Oregon. I think it's going to really come down. I really think with Dakorien Moore, it comes down to this. He knows his family prefers Texas. All those family members that live in Austin, live in Dallas, easier for them to see him play. All those people that were at that Texas official visit. And there were a lot of them in those photos. It's really going to come down to where he wants to be now. Does he want to be in Eugene and do something different? Or does he want to go to Texas, be around his family so all those family members can see him play, because that's tougher ask in Oregon. I think Texas has continued to feel confident. But for Texas fans, they're going to be like, what does that actually mean? Because Dan Lanning's the one winning the recruitments right now. Mm-hmm. So I think college coaches aren't ever, I would say, shocked by news. I think Texas would be pretty surprised if it wasn't them tomorrow, but we'll see what happens.
It's interesting. Is that bad news if he pushed it up, CJ, you think? And you guys said this was close to your timeline that you picked anyway. But good or bad news for Texas that it seems like it's abruptly happening tomorrow?
It's one of two things, right? It's either Sarkisian putting his foot down saying we need to stop the bleeding, we got to get a 5-star in the fold, we got to turn this momentum around, or it's Oregon continuing what we've seen to be a very hot, path on the trail that they currently have. So we'll see. Of course, again, I've felt like Texas has been that team to beat in this recruitment for a month or two since you reopened from that LSU commitment. Will that still be the case? I think Texas did a great job on that official visit. Of course, Oregon, as we've mentioned, has been very hot with Jordan Davis and, Josiah Sharma, some of these big national recruitments. We've seen them go all in for. We'll see. Again, but right now I'm leaving it with this. I do think Texas, with all that we've heard in the background, and Jerry, again, you can add to this, it's felt like Texas has been that top dog for the last 2 months.
Yeah, see some of these folks in the chat, a little pessimistic, Jerry. AJJ_sports says, I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling about this. Steven says if DK picks Oregon, UT fans are going to riot. UT fans, I don't know why they're a little bit anxious right now. And they don't seem very optimistic about this announcement, at least the kind of the shifted timeline of it. But I'm with you guys. I actually feel good, and I'm not Jerry Hamilton. I'm not CJ Vogel. I'm an outsider. I'm not on the inside like those guys. But man, when you bring 11 family members to a visit, I don't know. It just feels different. I never seen anything like that before. That kind of rang out to me. But I know that's not the end all be all. I get that.
Right. I mean, look, Dakorien's so interesting because there's not a lot of recruits that have a lot of family in a city where one of the colleges is. They're considering that's not like if you're not in Dallas or Houston, right? In Austin, let's say. Do you want to go be your own man and do something different? Or do you realize from a family standpoint, and that's not the only reason he'd go to Texas. Steve Sarkisian's offense, wide receivers, the development, the quarterback room. There's a lot of things in Texas' favor, but it's hard to get past those pictures, Rod and CJ. I mean, that is a lot of power trying to pull him to Austin. But I think the key here is, despite the family wanting him, making no bones about it, they want him in Austin. People have always also set back and let him have his own decision-making process, because I think that's very important. If you try to push somebody and they make a decision based solely on what other people want, a lot of times that doesn't work out as well, covering this over the years. So I think it's going to come. If he commits, the one thing I've been told is this: wherever he commits, it's over. That's the only place he'll go to games his senior season. The recruiting process is going to be over. So, and you never want to say 100%, but let's say 99.999. There is one thing that's consistent in this. They don't want to be the people after the LSU thing where you commit to a school and then start visiting around to the other school during the season. I think that's the one thing that they're going to stay away from in this recruitment. So I think that whatever he announces tomorrow, there's a very high probability this one's done, because he's already been through that process of committing and decommitting once.
Wow. Doing it on the 4th of July too, and on the holidays. So that's going to be really interesting. I think right now I'm seeing the chat's pretty split in terms of Longhorn fans optimistic. They like your theory, CJ. Hey, you know what, Dakorien, we need to get this momentum going. You could be the linchpin. Is he that kind of recruit though, guys? Too, we see this often, right? I talk about it in the '99 class. I think C. Red was more kind of the linchpin recruit for Mac Brown, even so more so than Sims, because Sims I think came on a little bit later after his commitment to Tennessee, and he decommitted and then committed to Texas. But man, once Corey Redden, the best player, defensive player in the country, committed, was a real, kind of whirlwind for Mack Brown at 99 class. Every class seems to have a linchpin. Is he that? Could he be that linchpin of this class potentially?
No doubt. No doubt. He could be, especially on the offensive side of the ball. He would create the momentum that Texas needs. That's for sure right now. Somebody else also, Jay, when did Colin Simmons commit? That was August 8th, I believe, last year. Big ceremony at Duncanville High School right before the start of the school year. And that's the one thing that's been maintained in the Moore family. Get this out of the way and enjoy your senior year. So, again, I think the decision he makes now is going to be very, very solid. August 10th, Wilderness said August 10th. I knew it was right around there.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, Oregon's making folks nervous. Hey, Dad, this is what you get when you're going after, the big 5-star recruits in the country all around. Whether, we talked about this with the defensive tackles as well, but when you're going after those big fish, it can be a little bit anxious. You can be a little bit anxious in that process. All right, getting back to some of the questions here, guys. This comes from Craig. He says, Jerry, do you think teams are negative recruiting Texas' new D-line coach?
Trying, yes, of course. Yeah, you always try. But I will say this, though. Not like going after somebody, truly going after them. Because the best recruiters don't negative recruit other people. They positively recruit their resume and the school they're at. So I think the negative recruiting stuff, does it happen subtly? Yes. Are people just out and out going after somebody? No. If you're not recruiting your resume, your ability to develop players, and your experience at that position, you're not going to win those recruitments anyways, unless it's just an NIL play. So no, I don't think that's going on. I do think one of the things, again, with D-line recruiting for me is I think Texas needs to cast a wider net. And that's one of my things. I think that, you go to Folsom, you go to 40 miles south of Athens, 2 guys in Florida. You have 5 guys for official visits. One's an in-state player. You're working lower odds there right now to begin. I think they need to cast a wider net. Are people trying to negative recruit? But it's not over the top. It's not like Odell Haggins at FSU called Myron Charles and said, man, I got 35 years of developing college players, and this guy hadn't done it at all. It doesn't work like that. You sell if that's what you're selling, you don't win a lot of those recruitments. You got to sell yourself, your school, and your resume and your development, and mix in the subtle. I've done this for 30 years at a higher level than maybe some of the other people you're considering, and that doesn't mean you leave it at that. You don't say one school or one coach. You leave a subtlety is what they try to do. It's not just straight going after somebody.
Yeah. No, good stuff there. How about this? Good question. We got a super chat here. It's Lep. We appreciate It's Lep joining us. We appreciate the super chat. Said you still feeling good about 70% for DK, for Dakorien Moore. 70%? Who threw out the 70%? You, Jerry?
Yeah, I did after the Texas visit. I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Sure will.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I like CJ's theory though, that they need to get some momentum in the recruiting, and maybe now they decided, hey, maybe Dakorien Moore himself wants to help kind of start that momentum of recruiting, and he knows he could be that linchpin guy. So I like that theory. Let's see if it works out for Texas tomorrow. A couple other questions here, getting back to the chat. Thank you very much, It's Lep. We appreciate that. Jedi Master Bevo said, would Sark ask DK to move up announcement to fire up the base? That's CJ's theory.
I believe so. I mean, momentum's big. What's been the topic that we've discussed over the last week, Jerry and Rod? It's been, what's going on? Why are we losing as many recruiting battles as we have been? Right? Dorian Brew makes a surprise commitment out to Oregon. Josiah Sharma, you were expecting him to at least give you a deeper consideration. I think Texas felt like they had him in the bag at one point. Kevin Wynn, Javion Hilson, reaffirming his commitment. There's a number of guys that it felt like coming out of these June officials, Texas might have been in a better spot than they were, just to find out 2 weeks later when these guys went home and those post-official visit highs wore off. Well, maybe not. So what does that mean moving forward? Because, again, this was where we've seen Texas kind of build their class over the last 3 cycles. This kind of early July, late June period, this 4-week period where you can kind of lap over one another. You see Texas build up, and I think Texas did a great job this cycle building early, right? They got to 10 or 11 commits much earlier than we had seen in many previous cycles. But at that same point, you're expecting a 24 to 25 person class, and this is where you're supposed to get the core, right? And there's a number of guys expected to commit this week coming up, right? Cade Phillips, Riley Pettijohn, Nick Townsend, a number of guys that you've been in on for a while. I'm thinking they're trying to generate some momentum and stop the bleeding that we've seen over the week or two, over the last 10 days. So we'll see. Of course, it still has to go Texas's way, but that's my theory right now.
Yeah. No, man, I hope that that theory is correct, too. I think a lot of Longhorn fans are hoping that is the case. All right, getting back to the questions this is more a comment here from Steven. Maybe this is a discussion we could have about Kenny Baker. He says Kenny just might not be that great of a recruiter, too. That doesn't mean he can't produce great D-line talent, though. Jerry, there is kind of an old notion about some coaches in college football that some are great recruiters and some are great developers of talent. Every now and then you get a coach that's both. And some coaches know this too, and they're perfectly fine with that, depending on what position it is. Is it possible that could be the case for Kenny Baker, or we don't have a sample size enough to know that because he hadn't been around long enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to give him some time. But look, I'll say this for the guys that get a lot of these guys. I'm just not sure your recruiting pitch is really what gets you these guys at the highest level deal. I don't know what else to say, man. I mean, I think it matters. Relationships matter, but I don't know if these guys are making these high-end D linemen, these national battles, must-haves for some people, are coming down to 90% who somebody thinks is the better D-line recruiter. No, I'm just being real. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I back that up. And the other thing, I've mentioned this before, but on the defensive line, look at where Texas is missing right now, right? And Jared, this goes back to your point about casting a wider net, especially in-state, right? It wasn't a great in-state crop this year, but at the same time, you're going to have an advantage as the University of Texas, a team that was just in the top 4 of the entire college football playoffs a year ago. You're going to have an advantage with kids closer to home. When you go out to Georgia, to Florida, to California, and all of a sudden everything's evened out with promises from the back end with teams closer to home, well, guess who now holds the upper hand there? It's teams that are, 2 hours down the road, 30 minutes, an hour flight versus 3. That makes a difference. So to your point, and again, I'm trying to add on here as much as I can, but getting, some of that extra effort for kids on the in-state crop, despite maybe not being the best, in-state group this cycle, you have to still recruit them because, again, if you strike out, now you're empty-handed on both hands, out-of-state and in-state.
One of the things what's been so interesting for the Texas fan base with me is Bo Davis has gone from love to public enemy.
Yeah.
But what happens if Zion Williams and Brandon Brown and Dylan Battle and somebody else sign with LSU this year? Where's that narrative go? The guy just remember how to recruit again? The guy that Nick Saban tried to hire twice and Billy Napier when he got to Florida? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure I buy into all this negative on somebody that somebody forgot how to recruit or now they don't make effort recruiting. I don't buy that. I think Bo Davis makes effort recruiting. I think Kenny Baker makes effort in recruiting. As Rodney Garner, if Brandon Brown goes to somewhere in Tennessee, has he lost his touch? I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just a little different with all this stuff.
All right, good stuff, guys. Justin Yarbrough, thank you very much for the super chat. We are very grateful for it and grateful for you guys' participation. Justin says, December recruiting will be exciting as it always is under Sark. which recruit was the most surprising to choose Texas in Sark's tenure, in y'all's opinion? And CJ, you got into some of this, some of these late flips too that Sark's had in the last couple of years, and I thought was interesting. And that's something else that Texas fans need to realize, is that when Texas bets on itself a lot in these recruitments, and then when they have had success during the season, they get a lot of these recruits to flip, and possibly maybe that could be the case. So answering Justin's question, I'll throw it to you, CJ. Which recruit was the most surprising to choose Texas in Sark's tenure, in y'all's opinion?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I think on the maybe the national scale, I still think Arch to some degree was a surprise, though those that were in his circle understood that he really did like the University of Texas above anything else. And of course, Sarkisian's pedigree of coaching and developing quarterbacks speaks for itself. He won over the family first, and I think that went a long way. But still, I mean, even this past weekend when I was down in Thibodaux, Louisiana, there were folks that were sitting there, more so of that local media, obviously, from Louisiana, sitting there thinking, man, I can't believe Arch really did end up at the University of Texas compared to a Georgia and Alabama, Ole Miss even kind of in that conversation. But that's one for me. Who's most surprising else chose Texas? I'm still surprised Sadir Mitchell ended up at Texas. That's still one. Yeah, I'm surprised that he ended up. That's, again, we talked about it for his caliber of recruit. I know it hasn't yet panned out the way that Texas fans have wanted it to be. Don't give up on Sadir yet. Again, let me put that out there. He was, a top 5 national interior defensive tackle at 330, 340 pounds out of high school from New Jersey, nonetheless. And that's not an easy place for Texas to go up and recruit. And when you go head-to-head with Kirby Smart for defensive linemen, very rarely do you come away with big national wins there. And I think if it wasn't for a recruitment like that, maybe these recruitments wouldn't have stung as hard as they are currently. But that's also another one. I'm still very surprised at him choosing the University of Texas over some of the other options he had available for him.
I think the Phil Samit was interesting. Aaron Butler going to Texas without making an official visit. So that's a big one because that's a rarity to me. So maybe not the name ID value, but going to a school without making an official visit is such a rarity that maybe he should be higher on the list. Manny Muhammad, maybe picking Texas at the time he did over Nick Saban was maybe a big upset in a way because, I IMC'd that commitment ceremony, and Nick Saban was on the phone an hour and a half the night before with Manny Muhammad trying to get him just to back up that commitment. Wow. I think so. Maybe at the timing of that was interesting to me.
It's good. Yeah, I like that. All right. Before we get back to the questions here, let's take some time to thank our sponsor of our Wednesday night live stream. And we appreciate Andy Ludicky being a part of the On Texas football family. So if you are looking to diversify, you may be someone like me or Gary that has their hands in a lot of multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and financial goals. If you're stuck in the corporate rat race, which is 2 weeks PTO and no control over your money or your schedule in general, call Andy. He will take you through a process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy today or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net or give him a call, 404-973-9901. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky. We appreciate him sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream. All right, getting back to my man CB joins us with a super chat. Thank you very much, CB, and happy 4th of July to you too as well, brother. We appreciate it, CB. Everybody knows CB in the Longhorn community. We just for those initials, that's how well know my man CB is. So we appreciate you. Also, getting back to the questions here. This one's from Slick Rick. He says, Jerry, it's obvious Texas is elite. Texas is elite is offensive recruiting with Sark being a play calling guru. But does Texas need to win more to be elite in defensive recruiting? I thought they were doing pretty good everywhere except pretty much D tackle.
I mean, look, edge is really good. I mean,
Yeah.
Smith Orobo, Lance Jackson, very good, right? Elijah Barnes, one of the best linebackers in the country. I like Caleb Chester. Rod, I know you like Caleb Chester too. They missed out on some other corners, obviously, but I'm more of a wait and see what happens come December in recruiting, because if you just look at it, Kobe Black last year during the season, Wardell Mack flipped. Xavier Filsaime didn't have an offer. He flipped from Florida. So they added some. Anthony Smith flipped from A&M after the coaching carousel. So they added a number of really talented guys last year. So I'm not, I'm more wait and see mode, because if I sit here and say, oh, this is terrible right now, and Sark ends up flipping, signing guys in December, everybody comes back and said, yeah, you said it was terrible. So do I think Texas needs to recruit? I just think they need to cast a wider net at defensive line. I'm going to continue to stay on that. That's kind of what I believe. I think you have to recruit 10, 12 guys, whether it's nationally, in-state combined, to get 3 or 4 really good players. So I think they're going to have to cast a wider net. I think anytime you bring in 5 guys for official visits and 4 of those guys are out of state, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to win 80% of those recruitments.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart and Nick Saban don't win 80% of recruitments on the D-line, guys.
That same kind of push and conversation could be pushed, or at least placed on the linebacking spot too, right? You have 1, you want 2, you'd like to have 3. You only brought 4 in. And right now, Riley Pettijohn not trending towards Texas's direction. Jonathan Cunningham will have a decision on July 5th. Whether or not there are folks in his camp that like Texas or not is still a big part of his conversation and recruitment at the moment. And then, of course, Manfremo. It felt like Texas kind of evened the score a little bit with Notre Dame, though Notre Dame still probably holds the upper edge based off of what my last conversations around his recruitment have been. So, again, to your point, Jerry, you'd like to have more bullets in the chamber when it comes to getting guys in the fold and having opportunities to circle back around on when these recruitments go different directions. So also to this question, does Texas need to win more to be elite in defensive recruiting? I think Texas has recruited the defense probably better than we've seen it in the last 15 years. You don't have a Colin Simmons, you don't have an Anthony Hill, you don't have a Derek Williams, a Manny Muhammad, and Xavier Filsaime. All of these guys, and now a Lance Jackson and Elijah Barnes, that are 5-star caliber guys. You don't see those guys. You don't see those commitments coming into Texas under the last 2 regimes. Right now, it's all about getting the vision, getting that production and kind of vision back on the field for the University of Texas. And it's taking those steps. Each year, we've seen the defense improve, whether it be statistically, stylistically, or just coming in and talking to kids on the defensive side of the ball. That culture certainly helps too. So I think they're in the right direction. Again, to your point, Jerry, it's just maybe a down year for the philosophy that they had coming into the 2025 cycle.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff, guys. All right. More questions here. This one comes from Stanfield. Says, Jerry, more D-tackle questions. Jerry, are there any sleeper D-tackle prospects nobody's talking about? Maybe D-tackles who are fairly new to football or injured last year. They have the measurables, but could have a breakout year. Any sleepers out there at the D-tackle position is what Stanfield wants to know.
Well, that's a tough one. I like Derry Norris from Spruce Creek in Port Orange, Florida, committed to Georgia Tech over Miami. I think he's maybe one to watch senior year. That could be with Texas, Florida, a number of schools. I think some people will make a move there because I think he's going to have the size. Seen him in person. I like where he could go. In the state, a little tougher because, again, those guys, maybe there's a kid that pops up out of nowhere that was injured, maybe moves the D-line. There could be – I look more at Georgia, state of Georgia there. There's 2 or 3 guys, I'm not going to bring up by name, that are committed to some schools that are Power 4 guys that I think it's such a deep year at Georgia in defensive line. Those guys are under-offered, under-recruited players. I think a couple of them are really good. So I think you'll see Texas do a little bit of that. In-state, a little tougher. This state doesn't produce those guys in bulk like a state of Georgia does. So the very best guys, they're all going to be spoken for. I mean, like I said, Chase Sims, Landon Rink, A&M. Dylan Battle probably goes to LSU. Obviously, Zion Williams probably announces for LSU tomorrow. Floyd Guidry at spring, committed to TCU. I think is very good. Does he fit the profile that Texas is looking for? He's 6'1", 285. But I'm here to tell you the guy's a damn good player. But does he fit the size requirement or the profile Texas is looking for? There's going to be a couple of guys like Floyd Guidry, but that doesn't mean Texas will make a move on him.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting that certain states like Texas are known for producing great quarterbacks, wide receivers, certain skill positions, but D tackle isn't a position consistently that you see in the acquisition or recruiting cycles that the state of Texas produces. So you got to go out of state for those guys. All right, good stuff there from Stanfield. Here's a question here from Champ Bailey 3. I'll throw this one to you, CJ. What happened with Riley Pettijohn's recruitment? Spring game seemed like he was a Texas lean, and a few days away from commitment, Texas is trending down.
Yeah. I think there's been a lot of other movement with other schools. Of course, it felt like Texas A&M felt like they were making that move up. Then it sounded like Ohio State was that school that was going to be the top dog. And now in the last week or two, we've seen USC out west make the most noise out of those three. And where does that leave Texas? Because right now I've not heard that Riley Pettijohn right now is still, kind of having that same momentum and conversations behind the scenes as loud with Texas as with USC and Ohio State. Now, there still are some factors that are pretty interesting with Pettijohn and his recruitment that have ties to the University of Texas. Will that ultimately be what wins out? Right now, based again off of what the conversations have been over the last 2 weeks, I tend to lean no, and I look more towards USC and Ohio State as where this decision will ultimately come down to.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Champ Bailey, for the question. We appreciate that. Cisco asked a question that I even saw someone in the chat bring up as well. If worse comes to worse, is it possible to move a guy or two at the D tackle spot?
Now, the one guy, I think
D tackle position.
Yeah, there is. I think the one guy on the offensive line that 2 years ago could have done it's DJ Campbell and been a productive player, but that's not happening. It's not Connor Stroh. It's none of those guys. Those guys are offensive linemen.
It's a tough thing to do.
It's a tough thing to do. DJ Campbell had the frame, the quickness, the athleticism, the twitch to do it, but that wasn't his upside of his future either. I think he could have been a rotational piece at D-line, but his upside's right where he is. So, no, absolutely not for me.
Hey, can I ask you this question? Since you were just talking about like D linemen and how often the pipeline of D linemen is disrupted in the state because they just don't have a good amount of them, a robust supply really of defensive linemen coming from the state year after year. At what point in an athlete who's considered got the physical profile, got the frame to play on the line of scrimmage, even potentially in the interior on their line, at one point, and really what traits are you looking for to say, oh no, that's an O lineman, that's a D lineman and not an O lineman, or an O lineman and not a D lineman? And at what age? Because is that happening in other states where you getting guys to frame and they go, no, he's playing D line, and as opposed to Texas, do we? I know we got enough big humans.
Spread football state.
Yeah.
Spread football state. When Texas went spread football, to me, like, there aren't as many linebackers in the last decade coming out of Texas. I mean, that profile to your Texas, those level schools, right? They're more of the safety bodies, the leaner kids that you kind of have to project. It's a harder projectable position. Interior D-line, I think a lot of those guys are playing offense. I think a lot of those guys are playing basketball at a young age too. So I think because it's such a spread state, I think that has kind of hurt defensive line, kids playing defensive line, more interior defensive linemen. I think those bigger athletic bodies are playing offensive line. And that's why the state is producing so many offensive linemen. I mean, if you look, Blake Monroe had a graph for us on Coffee and Football last week talking about how many OLs, OTs, interior OLs are signing with Power Fives and being drafted. It's a pretty high number, and I think that's a big reason why. But I also say this. I think there's just doing this nationally, guys, If you go to the state of Georgia, which I think Georgia's the best recruiting job in college football, I'm on record for that. That state has more bigger, faster guys that play on defense, whether that's D-line, edge, or linebacker, than Texas does. And it's not even close in some years. And that's why you see Clemson and those people, those battles in those states, in the state of Georgia, are massive for those kids. I mean, think about the Georgia defensive lines. And Georgia neighbors Florida, by the way. But just think about all the guys that Nick got out of that state. Think about the guys Tennessee traditionally got out of that state. But they just have more bigger, faster guys in that greater Atlanta and South Georgia area than anywhere else in the country right now for me. Rod, you've mentioned that. We've talked about this before. The greater Atlanta area is the most talented in the country in a major city area.
Yep, in the metro area. There's no metro area that's produced more NFL drafted players since 2020 than the Atlanta metro area. DFW second, though. DFW second. But no, good stuff there. Just a good point, though, about the spread, just the proliferation of the spread offense and the spread philosophy and how it really affects talent development.
Why is Texas now producing more quarterbacks than California?
Yeah, exactly. The spread system. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that is a huge factor, if not the biggest factor in it. All right. Getting back to the questions, guys. Oh, Slick Rick here with the super chat. Thank you very much, Slick Rick, for the super chat. We appreciate it as always. Upcoming live stream for DK Moore's announcement. Oh yeah. It's on a holiday. And hey, Slick Rick wants to know if he's gonna get an upcoming live stream. We don't know. How about that? Hey, there you go. Boom. Hey, there you go. Boom, it's done.
You do know.
I didn't even know it was going to be happening. There you go. To be determined. Likely 7:45 Central. Stay tuned. There you go. Boom. So there you go. So we are going live. There you go. Hey, ain't no telling where we gonna be when we go live too. Ain't no telling where CJ gonna be if he is up on that live, and he can end up being shirtless out somewhere near a body of water. Ain't no telling where I could be if we end up on the live stream. And there you go. Exactly. Ain't no telling we're gonna all be tipsy on the live stream, so it's gonna be pretty wild. Let's hope DK Moore makes the announcement that we all want to hear. If not, then you may get some wild times on the live stream tomorrow, especially from the chat. I know a lot of you guys are pretty split on if you think DK Moore is going to choose Texas or choose Oregon. Is it LSU just out of this thing? Is everybody just believing LSU?
I'll be shocked if it's not Texas or Oregon.
Okay.
I will be surprised on that one. That would surprise me.
Okay. Jay, speaking of DK Moore, Jay Dobbs wants to know, is DK Moore close to his QB who committed to Bama? And is he possibly irritated because Texas didn't take his high school quarterback?
No, I think if it had worked out, great, but not a factor. I think Dakorien, he's going to announce where he just wants to be. I think we're going to try to break it down and talk about it all. I think where he goes is where he just wants to be, where he envisions himself. I think it's going to be pretty simple on that for Dakorien Moore.
Yeah. All right.
Look, here's the thing with a kid this talented. Wherever he goes, if he maximizes his talent, he's going to be a first-round draft pick. Wherever he goes. He could have gone to Jackson State if Dion was still coaching there. And he'd be a first-round pick if he maximizes his talent. That's how talented he is. So for a kid like that, you have to if you understand that and you understand, okay, that's my talent level. I work with this D-Rob guy in Dallas. He's done a great job with me. If I keep going the way I'm going and I keep ascending and maximize my talent, wherever I go, I'm going to be successful.
Yeah.
And you've seen very talented guys that have gone somewhere. They didn't maximize their talent, was it off the field or whatnot, and they fizzled out a little bit or they never reached that ceiling. So wherever DK Moore goes, if he does his job and maximizes his talent, he's going to be a first-round draft pick. So I think it comes down to where does this guy want to be?
Yeah. I believe that was kind of like Dion's pitch to like Travis Hunter too. It was like, hey man, you're going to be a first-round pick, man. Where to go? Where you want to go?
That's just reality.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Guys look that talented.
Look, so here's the thing with DK Moore too. So think about this in terms of his decision tomorrow. The first time around, and I remember this, CJ, the first time I went and interviewed Dakorien Moore, I asked, who his favorite player was growing up. He said Odell Beckham. And that always stuck with me. And he committed to LSU that first go-round. He loved Odell Beckham. And that's who he identified with. We talk about this in recruiting. That was the player he identified with that made him identify with LSU. I think once Dakorien sat back and looked at his recruitment a little differently, I can't go to a school because my favorite player went there. I've got to go to a school that I truly want to be at. Wherever he decides tomorrow, that's what he's decided.
All right, there you go. So a lot of Longhorn fans on pins and needles. They'll be waiting for that announcement. Do we know? Is there a time? What's the time on the announcement?
Rob. 8 p.m. And we'll have something here for you on Texas football right before then.
CJ will be wearing Nathan's hot dog eating contest shirt.
Like I said, there's no telling where everybody's going to be hanging out.
I hope I'm wearing a shirt by then. That means I'm not burnt.
Let's just hope. Yeah, CJ's got. If he doesn't have a shirt on, hey, it's all right, CJ. They came here for the Nuggets, man, and you always bring the Nuggets. That's what they came here for. All right, getting back to the questions here. My man CB has a question. All right, a little off topic here. We've been talking a lot of recruiting, of course, a lot of D tackle recruiting, and of course, Dakorien Moore. CB wants to know thoughts on the guys Schlossnagle has brought in and the guys staying. CJ, I know you had a couple of baseball nuggets you wanted to get into, but what are your thoughts for what man CB brought up here? Thoughts on the guys Schlossnagle has brought in and the guys staying?
Yeah, no, I did a deep dive on this earlier today. Some of the portal moves, high school flips that they've, kind of won over since taking this Texas job. A lot of them, most of them have been pitchers. And I think that's kind of been what Texas fans have been hoping for, right? It wasn't a pretty season on the mound, if you will, coming into the season in 2024. Of course, you're expecting Texas, like A&M, Tennessee, Florida, some of these big-time programs to have dominant arms. Now that you have Max Weiner, the arm farm here on campus, you're expecting that to pick up. Right now, there's a few guys that I'm really excited about that Texas has picked up. The first is Aiden Moffitt. He pitched 17 innings a year ago, had a 5.6 ERA, but struck out 21 in 17 innings. That's pretty solid. And he's up to about 96, 95 with his fastball. You can get that kind of fine-tuned a little bit. I think you'll have a solid bullpen piece for 2025. The other is Thomas Burns. This is a guy that projects more so as a weekend, eventual weekend piece. He was actually Arizona State's opening day starter as a true freshman last year. A rare thing to see. Only pitched 6 games, 39 strikeouts in 30 innings. Again, for those who don't follow baseball all too closely, if you have more strikeouts than you do innings pitched, that means you have pretty good stuff. And then to me, if you look to the high school flips, Sam Cozart out of High Point, North Carolina, 6'7" right-handed pitcher, throws about 94, 95, is a perfect game, rated 10 overall player. For those that don't understand, that means he's probably going in the top 3 to 5 rounds of the MLB draft, which will be July 11th. So we'll see if he actually makes it to campus. First and foremost, to get him in the class and committed to Texas, great sign for how these guys can use their pitch of not only the University of Texas, but their development as pitching staffs to these kids early on. And then I teased this earlier this morning as well, but Texas will be hosting transfer portal second baseman Ethan Mendoza from Arizona State this Saturday. He will be on campus for a visit with the Texas staff, originally from South Lake Carroll. He looking to return to the state of Texas. Of course, he took visits to Arkansas and Oklahoma already, so he's looking to get into the SEC as well. This past season, he hit .315, 3 home runs, 11 doubles, 24 RBIs, so not much of a power hitter, but he only struck out 20 times in 230 at-bats, so he can certainly put bat to ball, get on base, has an 890 OPS as well, so he can slug a little bit. He would be filling the hole that was left by D. Kennedy, who departed for the portal and ended up at Kansas State this past, last night, I believe. So Texas busy on the recruiting trail in the baseball world, and right now they have to be with the way that Texas A&M has been able to retain and add to their current lineup.
Hey, by the way, this sums up the chat right now. Mr. 5-Run-2, Moore will be a Longhorn. Then couple of minutes later, Moore and Lockett pray. Mr. 512, I'm not making fun of you. That is the chat right now. There's some confidence, then there's some prayers, and it's the same people.
Yeah, it is. And how I saw that just goes to Sean's question here. He wants to know, does DK Moore's decision impact Khalil Lockett and Jamie French?
That's a tough one. Let's talk about that tomorrow.
Okay. All right. And we will talk about it tomorrow, y'all.
Let's talk about that tomorrow.
All right. So, Sean, bring it back tomorrow. I promise. We'll get to that tomorrow. Slick Rick, and I like this. Slick Rick wants to know, Jerry, how many highs left on the board? And thank you for
all my highs minus John Mills are still there. We'll see how it turns out.
Oh, there you go. So that answers Jay Shipley's question. He wants to know, Jerry, were any of the ones that committed this past week?
No D lineman, man. I ain't jumping out on that limb.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, there you go. Hey, Juan, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Appreciate the love. He says, Jerry, I am worried about Oregon. Can you say to him you start next year if Texas can't say because of Ryan Wingo, Jonte Cook, and DeAndre Moore? He's worried about Oregon potentially getting the commitment of DK Moore. If he can't start next year for Texas because they're so deep at wide receiver, do you think that plays a role? Thank you very much, Juan, for the super chat. We appreciate it.
Yeah, look, I don't think Dakorien – I really believe he's going to make the decision based on where he really wants to be. I think this is a smart kid. He knows there's competition everywhere he goes. Dakorien Moore is a freshman on varsity at Duncanville. He knows competition. He had to beat out as talented as he was at a young age, he had to beat out older guys to take a spot. You have to compete to be on the 4x1 at Duncanville's relay. I mean, this guy's used to competing. I'm not going to – with Dakorien Moore, for a guy that's that talented, Rod, you know this. How many of those guys are actually worried about somebody else? They almost welcome the competition.
Yeah.
These aren't the type of guys that say, hey, I'm going here because of this. Now, Adrian Peterson, Cedric Benson, he also watched Texas get annihilated. Sorry, Rod, you were on the field. Annihilated, right, in the Cotton Bowl. But actually, I think Roddy graduated. No, I can't remember.
No, I was already gone by that time.
That was yeah. You were in 2014. It was 65-13.
Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah.
Right.
My blowout year was a different year.
Right. All right. Too bad, Rod. That was a good play. All right. But yeah, so I don't think Dakorien Moore is worried about that. I think the guy is simply gonna make a decision on where he wants to be. That is where I think this is going to come down to. And I know a lot of things will be talked about. I'll trust the people I've talked to.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much, Juan. We appreciate you giving us the love on the super chat there. We appreciate the question and the participation. All right, getting back to a couple of questions. I know we're getting close to the end of it here, but Peyton Ross wants to know, could we see some D tackles hold off on committing now that they know Texas is looking to throw out more offers / evals for some of these D tackles now? What are your thoughts, CJ? I'll throw it to you.
It's interesting, right? You think maybe, but hoping in recruitment is never what you want to be. That's never a spot you want to be in, is just hoping and wishing that an offer comes your way, that interest comes your way. If anything, right now, I think that folks who might not be on the board for the Longhorns, or if Texas is circling back on right now, are probably already in a class somewhere, because that means they probably weren't highly recruited to begin with. And once they start getting that interest early, they say, let me find a home, and everything that comes after that is gravy. But right now, I can't imagine that there's many. Texas will have to extend some new offers in the world of defensive tackle recruiting. But right now, I don't see it as something that they just overlooked a lot of prospects right now.
Yeah. Jay Dobbs said, did Texas not cast a wide net for D linemen because they were overconfident? Going back to Jerry's point there.
That plays into it. I think, well, for one specifically, Jerry, I think they felt very good about, until probably the morning of.
Yeah. I think as far as the visits go, I wouldn't say overconfident. I just think they had these guys at a higher tier, and they went after the very best guys they thought that fit their need, their size, the kind of what they wanted to go. I think Brandon Brown, because he's such a tremendous players, an outlier there. I like Byron Murphy's a tremendous football player. It's an outlier on ideal size and frame. I think they went after the best they could with the bigger bodies.
Yep.
And they didn't get them.
Happens. It does happen.
But
and they don't.
The problem with that is, and look, I don't want to sit up here and say we're doubting Steve Sarkisian. I mean, the guy signed 3 straight top 5 level classes, and the chances are they're going to be knocking on that door once again come December, because they play the long game, and the coaching carousel will happen. They'll stay on guys that are committed elsewhere. Some of those guys are already still talking to Texas. This recruiting is so different now. But I just think they go after the guys they think are the very best, and they're kind of relentless with that. They don't back off on those guys. Look, just think back to the year that when Mario Cristobal took the Miami job. If Texas had just taken five B players on the offensive line, they wouldn't have had spots for those guys. They would have had to create spots. They'd had to cut guys. That's not what Texas ideally wants to do. Sark's going to stay on the guys they think are the best prospects all the way until December 4th. And if they lose out on those guys, then they'll go to the portal and try to get somebody who's a really good player at that position and go try to do it again the next cycle. That's just the way it's going to be with Steve Sarkisian.
Again, I don't want to fall on the portal to be the end all be all, the kind of that life-saving, path, but it's there for a reason, right? We've seen Notre Dame the past 2 years go to the portal to get a plug-and-play quarterback because they just don't have that piece in their locker room at the moment. Is that the same with Texas? Probably not, but it's one of those things where if you do miss in recruiting, the portal's there for you. It just might come with a steeper price and maybe not as many options developmentally over a long period of time.
Yeah, that's a great point, though. You do. That's basically what saved the day for Texas this season, bringing in 3 guys via the transfer portal. So it definitely gives you a short-term plan. I think the long-term plan, though, you want guys that are in that developmental pipeline for you.
And Rod, that's why towards the end of the, kind of end of the spring, moving into summer, we heard a little bit about Texas wanting to maybe go out and add another portal piece, maybe a little bit younger than what we saw. Obviously, fifth year grad transfer. Some of these guys, all of them for the most part, we expect 5 guys in total from this room to depart after this season. So you're going to be thin again. And that's why they're starting to look ahead, say, all right, well, we know at some point we're going to have a guy that's a sophomore that comes up for a junior and is familiar in the system. And when he's a senior and maybe he'll stick around for a redshirt senior year, you can have that continuity in that room right now. It's too far away to fret and to panic and get worried. But the portal will be an option for Texas on the defensive line again in 2025.
Yeah, and they know how it looks, so they literally just had it when Coburn, Ojimo, Murphy, Sweat, Collins. And they literally just had it. It just they've exhausted all those resources, it seems like, and now they definitely need a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy when it comes to the D tackle position.
Hey, Rod, one thing I wanted to hit on, it's been asked 2 or 3 times. I'm not going to read the whole question, but Freshwater, good question. What are the early thoughts from D linemen on Kenny Baker, players and recruits? I haven't heard anything negative on Kenny Baker. Actually, a bunch of positives, a bunch of compliments on him as a recruiter, even going back to Zion Williams, first time he met him. The presentation, everything I hear is very positive. Presentation's really good. We'll have a video up either tomorrow or Friday that CJ and I did with Smith Orogbo today. And he talked about Kenny Baker as part of his recruitment, just from a technical standpoint. I think guys are responding well to Kenny Baker. Again, I'm a little different with this at that position. I just don't think it's coach relationship, all that matters at this position all the time. I think it's the relationships matter. I think resume is helpful. I think it all matters a little bit, but I don't think there's one overwhelming thing that is going to make a number of these guys choose a school when it comes to coach, his coaching style, his player development, his presentation, and your phone calls with him.
Yeah. No, good stuff there, guys. All right, before I know we're getting close to the end of it, so we'll take a few more questions before we get done. But let's thank our fantastic sponsor one more time. We are very grateful to Andy Ludicky, and his team for sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream here on Texas Football. So if you are looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in a lot of different businesses, but Andy can help you diversify by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and financial goals. If you're stuck in the corporate rat race with just 2 weeks PTO and no control over your money and your schedule in general, call Andy. He will take you through a process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, please call Andy today or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net or give him a call at 404-973-9901. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for being part of the On Texas Football family and sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream. All right, gentlemen, getting close to the end here. A little bit of a palate cleanser here from Anish Singh. We appreciate the question, Anish. Basketball question. How do y'all view what the draft stock could be for the dudes on the men's basketball team this year based on how the year goes? Finally got the roster, Jerry, and I know you've been diving deep into it, especially with the addition of Kaluma there at the end.
Yeah, so you're going to see mock drafts with Trey Johnson in the lottery, which I do believe he is that level player, and it's going to be a damn good draft in 25. This year's was horrific. Next year's is the opposite. I think Trey Johnson will be a first-round pick and will be a lottery pick if he has the season that people are predicting he's going to have. And I'm not just talking in Texas NBA scouts. I think you're going to see Arthur Kaluma in some second-round mock drafts. We'll see where I come. We'll see what happens there. I actually think Texas has a number of players on this team that are going to play professional ball on some level. Does that mean NBA? It's a hard league, man. That's a worldwide league right now. I mean, it is hard. So we should get TJ Ford on here one night and just ask how hard is it actually to make the NBA right now. It's a worldwide league. It is hard to make it in the NBA. The team that Texas had that went to the Elite Eight, Jabari Rice is a two-way player. Timmy Allen is going to will himself onto an NBA roster, already has. Marcus Carr is playing with the Suns G League team, right? You're going to have off that team, Dylan Dessou got hurt, probably in a G Leaguer, really good overseas contract player. Christian Bishop plays overseas on some level. I think this Texas team, Trey Johnson's a first-round pick, should be a lottery pick. Kaluma will play pro ball on some level. Jason Kent, damn good player, will play pro ball on some level. Julian Larry, play pro ball on some level. Jordan Pope, the same. Tremont Mark, the same. Texas has a lot of pieces of guys that are going to play pro ball on some level. Do they have 3 NBA guys? I can't say that. But it's a talented roster. We'll see if Rodney Frank, Steve McLean, they bring it together. So these guys defer at the right times, sometimes to a freshman, which for older players can be difficult. If they all play together and they defer at the right times and to the right people, Texas has a chance to have a pretty good team. They're going to be really good on offense. Really good on offense.
Yeah, more options with guys that can create their own shots. More guys that more options in the clutch for Texas too.
Or you can be Bronny James and average 4.8 and get 4 years, $8 million guaranteed.
Hey man, listen. Hey, nepotism runs the world, guys. It's in every industry. It's in every facet of our society. There's a lot of nepotism. NFL.
Hold on. My guy just get drafted. Did yours?
No. Look, Bronny went 4.8 points, shot 26% from 3 as a 6'3" shooting guard, and 66% from the line. Hey. Just got 4 years and $8 million guaranteed.
He's a slasher.
Hey, it's all over the place. Hollywood, politics, it's everywhere, guys. Y'all just don't. Y'all not used to seeing it play out actually. In roster construction with a player like LeBron. I ain't gonna say he forced him, but influencing the Lakers to draft his son. But hey, man, what are you gonna do with a second round pick anyway? You just said it, Jerry. It was a weak draft. What were they gonna do with it anyway? What are they gonna do with their second round pick? Was it gonna matter who they draft?
Team chemistry's up. I mean, come on.
Hey, they got his friend to coach the team, and they drafted his son. We need LeBron to be happy, and LeBron he just resigned.
This is like a YMCA type of run team with $250 million salary cap.
Hey, listen, they got The Lakers, they're a star like oriented organization. They gotta please their star. He's the star. They gotta make him happy. They couldn't take a chance of LeBron leaving.
By the way, I'm having some fun with it. Obviously, it's not as big a deal as it's made out to be, but I do think this is not an old national recruiting analyst saying if Arch Manning, his name was Smith, he'd be a 3-star. Bronny James is a talented guy, but he didn't have the resume. But you know what? I'd argue if LeBron came on this show, you know what I'd fire back at that cocky CJ Vogel kid. AJ Johnson just went in the first round to Milwaukee, averaged 2.9 in the Australian Pro League. So that would be LeBron firing back at me. I was joking about CJ. He'd be firing back at me. AJ Johnson went in the first round. What did he do to get there?
Yeah.
Well, and then I'd fire back and say AJ Johnson is a poor man's Tyrese Halliburton if he'll actually maximize his talent.
Yeah. Yeah. Because LeBron is Bronny is what you say, like 6'2", 6'2.5".
He may be 6'3". I don't know what he's measured at recently, but I saw him in the McDonald's game because that's now in Houston, and he is a really good. He can really shoot the basketball. He didn't last year, but here's the one thing: I don't want to be too hard on Bronny. That guy almost died.
Yeah. Forget that.
So let's see. That shakes your confidence and your belief, and every time you go out there, you're kind of wondering, is this it? I mean, so let's see what he does here in the next 2 or 3 years. The way he fits the NBA as far as a guy that can shoot the ball. There's a lot of guys in the NBA making a lot of money that are a one-dimensional three-point shooter. But let's see if the makes follow at the NBA level. By the way, there's a really good bet out there. You can make some money. The bet is
Tell me.
CJ, go look this up. Go look this up. 25. If he scores 25 points in a game this year in the NBA, I'm pretty sure it pays like 75-1 right now.
People love the bet. CJ, don't take that bet, CJ.
Don't take that bet.
Don't take that bet. Even though I guess, hey, who knows? LeBron.
Hey, if the Lakers are out of the playoffs, LeBron may try to get 12 assists to him.
That's what I'm about to say. If LeBron may decide, you know what? No, we're gonna make this happen. All right, that's enough about Bronny. It does say he's like 6'2", something like that. So we'll see how it works out for Bronny. All right, one more question before we get out of here. This comes from Woodcrest. He said, "Do you guys think Sark turns up the heat for Faremo if Pettijohn goes elsewhere?" I like Faremo. I really do. I
love him. No, I think Texas is pushing for Faremo as hard as they possibly can. The question is, can they beat out Notre Dame?
Yeah,
where he's been a lean for a long time. They had a great visit. He'd probably already be committed in Notre Dame without this visit to Texas. So Texas obviously slowed that process down. Can Johnny Nansen get it across the finish line? Because Notre Dame was a huge favorite in this recruitment for a long time.
Yeah.
But if they're able to come through, that linebacking duo for Ramo and Barnes, woo-hoo-hoo.
It's nice.
That's a good group.
Yeah, I like that. Jeff here, Jeff Carey. Thank you very much, Jeff. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the super chat as well. He says you guys work very, very hard and do a great job. There's a fine line between very hard work and insanity. Sending a virtual hug. Hey,
where are we?
Much love, Jeff. Thank you, brother. Yeah. Hey, we work hard, but it is something that we all love to do. And we appreciate you guys helping us build this community, man. It means a lot to us. Trust me, everybody here works very hard. CJ and Jerry probably work harder than most around there because those guys are always on the road grinding, trying to get those nuggets in recruiting for you guys. But we got a great team, and it's a great community that we're building here at On Texas Football. All right. So tomorrow, as was mentioned, you saw it before the DK Moore announcement at 8. There will be a live stream starting right here at On Texas Football at 7:45. We don't really know who's going to be on the live stream. Whoever's not too drunk and has a shirt on, that's basically that's how it's going to qualify. And I don't know if that's going to be me.
You haven't seen my boiler, so my shirt's on.
Welcome to On Texas Football, guys. How we doing?
There you go. That's CJ. There you go. And Mama Vogel might be on too. Who knows? That's CJ, so watch it. All right. Is Mama Vogel still on the cruise?
She's dodging Hurricane. What is it, Bertle right now? So
yes, right.
She
Oh, she's
posts
down.
some updates. She's
is she
down
Grand-
there.
Is she down by the Grand Cayman?
She's they're in Jamaica right now, so
Wow.
they're right in the middle of it. She said last update I got was on the way over here. She said about 30 minutes ago that things are going it's getting windy, it's getting dark, but right now they're not expected to not be in the dead middle of it. So
Right, no, they weren't. I follow that stuff religiously, and no, they weren't. Somebody asked if the Dakorien Moore has entered the chat. That's funny, Matthew Hutchinson.
That would be we'd have to go for the 30 minutes if Dakorien Moore into chat.
Well, we are about to hit 9,500 people, so Dakorien, if you got something funny to say, go for it.
Now's the time.
Throw it out there quickly. But no, we appreciate all you guys for joining us, man. It means a lot. We've been having fun, and we'll have some more fun tomorrow. So like I said, we'll have a live stream at 1. All right, just to talk about some of the top topics and some of the other headlines, and of course, we'll talk about recruiting. But then at 7:45, there will be a live stream here at On Texas Football. So stick around for that. And that'd be the Friday live stream will be at 1. I'm sorry, I might have said tomorrow. Friday live stream at 1. Tomorrow you'll have the winning drive, which myself, CJ, and Coach. That'll be at On Texas Football. Friday's your live stream at 1 p.m. Tomorrow, before the Dakorien Moore announcement, you'll have a 7:45 live stream. So I think of my days mixed up. I'm already taking time off. I'm already checked out. All right. For my man CJ Vogel, for Jerry Hamilton, for our sponsor, really appreciate Andy Ludicky sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream. For Matthew behind the scenes, he is the real MVP. Thank you for all the super chats, guys. Really appreciate your participation in the show today. It means a lot to us. Join us tomorrow, like I said, for that 7:45 live stream. Getting ready for that DK Moore announcement. Until next time, hook 'em horns.